It's your open source advocate and I'm back with another video, and today we're going to talk about authoritative DNS, and we're going to use Technitium DNS server to set it up and self-host it ourselves. Now if you're not sure what I mean by authoritative, there are different types of DNS servers. You have the DNS server that runs on your router, and that serves things around your home. So if you type in an IP address, it knows how to route things around your home, but also if you type in an address out on the internet, it routes you to the right place to get you to the internet and so on. You also have DNS servers that you can run in your home that have name lookup. Now that could also be your router, but it could be something like Pi-hole or AdGuard or something like that. After that, you've got what your ISP runs, which is a name server that usually you're just automatically connected to by your ISP. Now you can go into your router generally and change that so that you're not using your ISP servers. I mean, it doesn't mean that they can't see what you're doing, but if you just wanted to use something else, you could. But in our case, we want to set up our own, and we want it to be our authoritative DNS for our domains that we own. So when I say that, for instance, let's see. I've got the itpros.org, and right now, if you look, it's actually just being done through Hover. So if anybody types in the itpros.org, it says, hey, I need to look that up, and the name server system says, oh, that's with Hover. And it goes and asks Hover, like, hey, do you have any records for this thing that need to go somewhere? And Hover looks and it says, oh yeah, I've got a couple of A records. What are you trying to get to? The main site? Or are you trying to get to IDP? And now these are actually running on my sysmain IT. There's just IP addresses I put. I don't use the itpros.org for anything normally, but this is for our video, so I wanted to have some stuff here. But instead of using Hover, what I want to do is I want to set up my name servers here so that Hover knows where to point me. So it goes, hey, I'm looking for the itpros.org. Oh, Hover, I see you've got that. And you know, instead of it coming here and saying, hey, Hover, I see that you're the domain provider, the name servers, instead we're going to have our name servers set up here, and Hover's going to go, oh, here, ask this guy. And then we're going to give it all the records we want to give it. And it gives you a lot of control over your domains. This is also a service you can provide to your clients. So as an MSP, a managed service provider, your clients are going to have their own domain. They might have several domains that they run their different services or websites or marketing sites and things like that off of, their own email. And you may want to come and set that up and have a lot of control over that for them so they're not having to deal with it. You can do it for them and you can manage it and you can keep everything up and running and happy. So we're going to get into how to install Technitium, and they've got this really nice blog post that really kind of walks you through it. Now it's not super clear, so that's why I'm going to do this video to help you just kind of get around the things that I ran into as I was going through this. But I'll link to this in the show notes and description as well, so you have access to the documentation that I started with at least. And then I'll have my own documentation on the show notes as well. Now the first thing you need to have is you need to own a domain. You need to have a domain registered with somebody. It doesn't have to be Hover. I use Hover. I really like their control panel. I think it's very easy to find my way around and access the things that I need. But if you have somebody else and you like it, you don't have to switch to Hover. You don't have to use Hover. You can use whatever you want. Now if you do say, man, I'd like to try Hover, I have an affiliate link down in the show notes or down in the description. And if you use that, I get a credit. Like if you go and sign up with Hover and set up a register a domain with them, I'll get a credit if you use my link. If you decide just to go to hover.com and set it up, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Now, once you've got your registered domain, you also need to have some servers. Now you can run this on your home server, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a couple of DigitalOcean virtual private servers, what they call droplets. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want these to be geographically dispersed, and I want to have two different name servers. You do not ever want to rely on a single name server. You want to have at least two. If you're running this as a business, as a managed service provider, you probably want to have 3 or 4, maybe 5, just so that your clients are always able to access their stuff. If one set of servers goes down for some reason in New York, I'll have some in San Francisco. Maybe you have them in France. Maybe you have them in Amsterdam. Maybe you have them in Sydney, Australia. You know, DigitalOcean has servers all over the world. So does Linode. So do all the other guys. Pick who you want. Again, total transparency. I have a DigitalOcean affiliate link down in the description. If you use that, you get a $50 credit for 60 days to try out their services and see what you like about it. And if you stick with them and start paying them after that time, I will also get a $25 credit. If you don't, it's okay. If you prefer to use Linode, if you prefer to use whatever other service, it's fine. I'm just letting you know why I'm setting these up here. So I'm going to go out here. I've clicked on create a new droplet. I'm going to set my first one up here in New York. And whatever center it sets it in is fine. We can pick New York 1. It doesn't really matter. It just kind of changes like what are your options, I guess. But I'm going to do Ubuntu. I'm going to do 2404. That's great. No problem there. I'm going to stay with basic. Now you've got these other CPU types for other types of things you might want to run on DigitalOcean, but for now I'm going to stay with basic. And then down here you see how they've got this one checked, and you see the price is $7. If you go over here to this one, it jumps up to $8. But if we go over here to regular, it's $6, and there's even a $4 one. I don't think $4 would quite do it, so I'm not going to go to that one. So I'm going to go to this $6 one here. The $4 one might, you can try it for free. If you use my link again, you'll get a credit. You can try it out. $4. You got $50 to work with. You can spin up 10 or 11 of those, 12 of those, I guess, and not run out of money. So go for it. Let's see. I'm not going to set anything there, but I'm going to set up my SSH keys. Now, I highly recommend if you don't have SSH keys set up with DigitalOcean that you do that, because it's much more secure than using a password. They do have the password option if you want it, but I recommend set up your SSH keys, upload them, and then just check the ones you want anytime you set up servers, and you'll have access that way. We're going to continue down. Now, right here, this is important. I'm going to give this the actual domain name that I want this server to have, the actual host name and domain. So I'm going to do ns1.theitpros.org, and I got to make sure I set the right one there. Okay. Once we've got that, we can give it tags if we want to, and then I'm just going to click on create. So it's going to create my first server. While it's creating that one, I'm actually going to go create a second one, and I'm going to put it in a different zone. So we're going to go to San Francisco this time, and San Francisco 3 is fine. We can click here on Ubuntu, and again, 2404 is great. I'm going to click on basic. I'm going to click on regular, $6. And I'm just going to keep scrolling down, doing the same exact thing I just did. I'm going to set my keys that I want in this case. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to set this host and domain name. So this is going to be NS2. The other one was NS1. This is name server 2. .theitpros.org, just like that. And I'm going to hit create. And it's going to go out and start creating these servers. And you can see it was already creating the first one. Now it's creating the other one. This one's going to finish pretty fast. That one will finish here in just a minute. And I can go ahead and copy this IP address for NS1. So we need to go out there and actually SSH into this thing. So with DigitalOcean, whenever you first create a server, I'm going to do NS1 on the top and NS2 on the bottom here in a minute. You can do SSH root at NS1. Actually, we'll just do the IP address first because we don't have this set up yet. So IP address, yes. And it should just log me in because my keys should be there. There we go. We're logged in. So that one's done. Okay, let's go back and we can just look at DigitalOcean again. And we've got our IP address for our second one, which is NS2. So we're going to hit copy. Okay. We're going to go back over here and just SSH into that one. And we're going to do that one here on the bottom. So we'll do SSH root at, and then paste that IP address in. And again, we're going to hit yes for the fingerprint. And again, with our SSH keys, it just logs us in. So now we're logged in as root. We don't want to remain root forever, but you can see I've got NS1 here and NS2 here. That's great. So up here at the top, I am going to do sudo, actually we don't even need sudo, we can just do apt update 2 ampersands apt upgrade -y. And it's going to go out there and try to grab all the latest packages for us and get them installed. We're going to do the same thing on this one, update 2 ampersands apt upgrade -y. Let it do the same thing. Let these things run through their updates real quick. And then once we've done that, we're going to create a non-root user, make sure that they have sudo privileges, make sure that they can log in with the SSH keys that we just set up. And I'll show you how to do that with DigitalOcean. It's a little bit funky. And then we're going to reboot these servers and we're going to get Technitium installed on them. While these are loading, I just want to say thank you so very much to all of my patrons over at Patreon. I cannot tell you how much it means to me that you want to support my content, that you enjoy my content, that you get a lot out of my content every week. I really hope that you're getting a ton out of it. And if you're not, let me know. That's one of the reasons that I have things like this set up so that you guys can have a conversation and a discussion with me. For everybody who does buy me a beer or buy me a coffee over at PayPal, man, it just brightens my day to see one of those things come through. It just makes me feel so good to know that somebody appreciated something that I made enough to go and say, you know what, here's a few dollars, here's a few pounds, here's a few buck, here's a, whatever your currency may be. I mean, truly, I really appreciate that. If you haven't already done so, click on that subscribe button, click on that thumbs up. That just helps the video get out there to more people who might appreciate more open source software like what I'm showing you today, and it really helps the video grow and the channel grow. So thank you again so much. Now let's just finish this update up and we'll get started creating our non-root users. Now you can see these are supposed to be equivalent servers, but you can see this second one that I started after the first one is already complete. So that's pretty interesting and pretty kind of cool. So while that top one's still finishing, let's go ahead and finish this. Let's go ahead and start with this bottom one. So I'm going to create a new user. I'm going to use the command adduser, so add user, and I'm going to give it my username. I want to be called Brian. You can put in whatever username you want. It's going to prompt us to put in a password for this user. So we're going to put in a nice strong password here. And then we're going to do it one more time. And then we're going to hit enter just to go through all this. You can fill out all of this if you want to, but it's not required. I'm just going to put a Y right there to accept everything, and we're done with setting up our user. I'm going to go up to this top one here and just tell it that's okay, tab and okay, let it finish up. And while it's doing that, I'll clear this. Now we need to make our user part of the sudo group. So we're going to do user mod -a, little a, capital G, and then sudo, and then our username. So in this case, my name's Brian. That's what I put, so I'm going to hit that. So now I'm part of the sudo group. Last thing I have to do is set up my SSH keys so that I can SSH in as Brian, because there's no keys for Brian right now. Now normally you could do SSH copy ID and push them up, but this is already set up to not allow not allow password authentication. It's doing only SSH, so I can't actually do that, but I can do a little workaround here. I can say CP, which is copy, and then space -r, which means recursive, so everything inside of the folder, .ssh, and I'm going to copy that to /home/Brian and then an n/, just like that. So it's going to copy that SSH folder right there into this location. Okay, done. Now I don't own that folder yet, so if I tried to exit and come back in as Brian, it would tell me I've got permission denied because Brian can't access those SSH keys yet. So now I need to give myself ownership of those. So I'm going to say CHOWN, which is change owner. I'm going to say -R, which is recursive in this case. And then I'm going to say Brian : Brian. This means the user Brian and the group Brian. So we have both of those. Is going to own everything in /home/Brian, and I don't need the n/. I'm just going to hit enter and it's done. So we've done it. We're done. Let's just prove it. Let's do sudo reboot. And while that's rebooting, we'll do the same thing up here. So we'll run through it one more time. So I'll clear that out. We're going to do add user, BRIAN, make sure I spell everything correctly. And I'm going to put in my password and then confirm it. And then go through this, and we can just hit enter because the Y is capital. It's going to accept all that. Now I'm going to add myself to the sudo group. So I'm going to say user mod -a, capital G, sudo, and then my username, BRIAN. And then we're going to copy our keys over, CP-r .ssh, and then space /home/Brian, and then an n/. And then we're going to say CHOWN -R, Brian : Brian /home/Brian, and we don't need the n/. We'll just hit enter and we're done. We're just going to do sudo reboot on this one, so it'll start rebooting, and this one should be rebooted by now, so we can do SSH Brian. Let's see, we can just do an up arrow because I don't remember the IP off the top of my head, and we'll just get rid of root here and we'll do Brian. And if I did everything correctly, it should log me in. And there we are, we're logged back in. Awesome. So now this one should be just about finished rebooting. We'll do the same thing and we'll get rid of root and we'll put in Brian. And there we are, we're logged back into that one. So we've got NS1 on the top, NS2 on the bottom. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to install the Technitium software. So I'm going to jump over here to their instructions, and they've got a really nice set of instructions. You just got to kind of scroll down to get to it. They tell you all about what authoritative name servers are, things like that. But then they've got this nice little curl command right here that we're just going to use. So we're going to copy that guy. So you can use Control-C or right-click and copy. It's up to you. And then in the terminal, you can right-click and paste, or you can use Control-Shift-V. That's the one that I like to do. It's going to prompt us for our super user password, and then it's going to start an install. It doesn't take very long, so I'm just going to Control-Shift-V on this bottom one. And again, I'm going to put in my super user password, and it's going to start an install. Now you see this one up here is already done. It's finished. It doesn't take very long. It gets everything finished and it's done. This bottom one is now done as well. Now it tells you, hey, you can go to http://ns1:5380. Well, we can't go to NS1, but we can go to the IP address. So let's open up our Firefox browser here, and let's open up a new tab, and let's go to that first one. So let's go back over here to DigitalOcean, and we'll grab the IP address for NS1. We'll copy it. We're going to paste it in right here, and we're going to put a colon, and then 5380 is the port. All right, there we go. So the first time you come in, I'm going to blow this up. It's going to log you in automatically as admin, and it's going to ask you to change your password right away. So put in a nice, long, strong password, and then again, and click on that. There we go. Now we are logged in on HTTP, so keep this in mind. As we're going through the setup, it's going to be HTTP, but we will switch it to use HTTPS to get to this setup in just a little bit. Let's open a second tab, and then let's go grab NS2, the NS2 IP address here. I just copied it by clicking on it. I'm going to paste it in, and again, 5380. Make sure I type the right numbers. There we go. And again, it's going to automatically log us in as admin, and we'll put in a nice strong password for this one. I recommend using different passwords for these for your production setup. Don't use the same password for both servers. Make sure they're long, strong. Use your Bitwarden password manager to create them if you want to. You know, make them really good, because this is your DNS records. You don't want somebody getting in there and messing with them afterwards. All right, we've got a lot of this setup done. I'm going to blow that up a little bit more. Let's see, this one's already there. Good. Okay, so if I switch, you see NS2. And then here's NS1, okay? That's how you can tell which one it is. Now, we need to fix a couple of things on these. So we're gonna go over here to Settings. And where this says NS1, I'm actually gonna type in the entire URL that I want. So the itpros.org, just like that. I'm gonna go down here just a little bit. I'm gonna scroll down, and on this time to live, I'm gonna change this to 600. Which is 10 minutes instead of 3600, which is an hour. And here I'm going to put in the email address of myself, which is the person that's responsible for the server. So Brian at, I'll put fixitdelrio.com. There we go. And then we don't have to do anything else in here. Now there's a lot of settings in here that you can go through later and check out, but for now we're just going to leave everything else the way it's defaulted. We're going to click Save. So that's done on server 1. Okay. We're going to do the same thing on server 2. We're going to go to Settings. And in this case, it's ns2.theitpros.org. Make sure you spell everything correctly for your domain. And then here we're going to do 600 instead of 3600. And here we'll put in our address like that. And make sure everything is spelled correctly. And again, just scroll to the bottom, and we're going to click on Save. And we're set up for that one. So we've got both of these set up now. The next step is to set up the zone for our DNS. So the nice thing about Technitium is you can make this the name server for multiple domains. You're going to repeat the same process I'm about to show you for the itpros.org for any domain that you want to set up in here. The only difference is this is going to have the host name of the itpros.org always. You don't have to do the settings part over and over. You just need to get the actual next set of steps done. So in the zone section, we're going to click on Add a new zone. We're going to call this domain name, the itpros.org, like this, okay? We're going to make it the primary zone, the default, and we're just going to hit Save. So down here in this list, you can see that it already created an NS record for us, which is great. That's a name server record, and it's got ns1.theitpros.org. Down here, it's got our SOA record, another important one. It's got our primary server is ns1.theitpros.org, and it's got my responsible person email filled in already. If you did this before going to the settings and doing those changes that I said, you can just edit this and type in your email and this information, but it's nice to have it in the settings because it does it for you. Now, in the NS1 setup, we need to add a few more records. So for our NS2 server, we have to add some records that NS1 says, hey, I know about that server and it's my secondary kind of backup server. So the first one we're going to create is actually an NS record. So in the type, we're going to click on NS. In the name, we're going to put ns2.theitpros.org. You see right there, it's got it underneath. So just NS2, type is NS. Here we're going to put ns2.theitpros.org for the name server. And then here we need to put in its IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. Now, this is part of something I didn't tell you about, but with DigitalOcean, to get IPv6 addresses, we have to go in here. We're going to go to networking, and right here you can see we don't have IPv6, so we have to turn off our server. We're going to tell it, yeah, I do want to turn it off. So we're in the middle of making changes. We'll go fix it. Don't worry about it. All right, it's done. I can clear that message, and I'm going to go up here and turn my server back on. I'm going to do the same thing for my NS1 server here. And you can see I've still got those 2 records. So again, I'm going to create my NS record. This is going to be NS2. It's an NS type record. It already has it. And we're going to put ns2.theitpros.org. And then here we need our IPv4 address for NS2. So we're going to go back. Now right here we've got IPv4 address. We're going to paste it. We're just going to hit enter. We're not going to put anything else. And then we're going to go right here. We can click into it and we can grab our IPv6 address. I'm going to paste that in. And that's all we need for that record. I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to add something. So I'm going to add NS2 again as the name, but this time I'm going to pick the 4A record, and the only reason I'm doing it in this order is because I already have the IPv6 address listed, but the A record is for IPv4, the 4A record is for IPv6. So I'm going to paste my IPv6 address in there for NS2, and I'm going to hit go, and then I'm going to add the last record, which is my A record for NS2, and I'm going to go here and pick A, and then I'm going to get the IPv4 address for this server, which is right there. And I'm going to paste that in, and I'm going to hit save. So now we should have 5 total records. We've got our SOA record. We've got our original NS record that it created for us for NS1 whenever we created the zone. We've got our NS record for our next server. Now you want to do these 3 records for every other server that you have as a secondary server. So if you have 4 servers, you're going to have your primary and then 3 sets of 3 entries like this for NS2, NS3, NS4, okay? That's how you make this stuff work. So this is all set. That's great. Now another thing we want to do with our NS1 server is we want to go back into our hover here. And remember I had a couple of DNS records? Well, we're going to be moving it off of hover, so hover's not going to have anything to say about these things. So I want to make sure I copy these over to the new server. So I'm going to blow that up a little bit. I'm going to copy this IP address right here, and it's the @A record. So we'll just go in here and we'll say go, and it's the @ so I'm just going to put @ just to make sure, but it should just do it by default. It's already an A record. I'm going to paste in that IP address and hit save. And then I've got one more here. It's the IDP, so I'm just going to copy this, make sure I get it all. We'll go back in here. We're going to add one more record. It's still an A record. IDP is what I have there. And I'm going to paste in that IP address. And again, just make sure there's no extra spaces. There we go. Hit save. All right, we've copied everything over from our DNS, which is great. Now we can leave that there. We don't have to do anything with it right now. So we've got everything set up for NS1. Now the only thing we have to do is set up some things in hover in a minute. But first, let's go ahead and set up our NS2 so it'll be ready. So we're going to jump over to NS2. Okay, I switched over to that tab. Same thing, I'm going to go here to the zones. And you notice I don't have anything set up yet for the itpros.org, so I'm going to create a new zone, add a zone. And again, the itpros.org, you'll type in your domain. And we're going to make this a secondary zone. Now you see it exposes some new fields here, so we're going to go grab the information for our primary. Because this is a secondary, it wants the primary name server information. Now if you look, it's got the IPv4, the IPv6, then it's got the actual domain name and the IPv4 in parentheses. So we need to follow that format in order to do this. So let's go to DigitalOcean. Let's go back. Let's click on NS1 here, so we'll get everything. We're going to grab this IPv4 address. Now it doesn't matter what order you put these in, as long as you put them in. So we're going to do ns1.theitpros.org space parenthesis, paste in our IP address and in parenthesis. Then we're going to put in our IPv4 address on its own line, just like that. And then we're going to go grab our IPv6 address and put it on its own line as well. Now remember, this is all happening on NS2, so we're putting this in for NS2. We'll leave everything else here the same. We're going to click add. So on this one, it only adds an SOA record. Okay. Now, this is going to try to sync on its own, and it should pull over all the stuff that we have in NS1 because it's our secondary zone. We just want it to sync. But if we do this, we're going to see it didn't pull anything over. So it has some really great logging. We're going to look at the logs here. And if we look at the logs, there's a bunch of stuff here, and it's going to give you some errors and things. What we're going to do is we're going to delete this out so we don't have to look at all that stuff. We're going to go back over here to the zone, and we're going to click on Resync. OK. We're going to go look at our logs, and it's going to say, hey, start a zone refresh, but we got this error, our code refused. And it's going to keep telling us, hey, I tried and I got this error. Now it's going to keep trying on its own occasionally, so just be aware. We're going to fix that right now. We're going to go back to the zone, and actually we're going to go back to our first server. So we're going to go to NS1. We're going to make sure we're in the zone for the itpros.org. We're going to click on options, and then down here we're going to click on zone options in that drop down. In the zone options, you're going to see that it's got the third one selected, and it says allow only name servers in the zone. Well, we've put NS2 in the zone, but for whatever reason it doesn't seem to like that. So we're going to go here and click on this one, and it says allow only specified name servers. So we're just going to specify our NS2 name server by IP address. So again, we'll go back to DigitalOcean. We'll grab this number 2. We're going to copy that IPv4 address, just make sure we get it, and then paste it in, and then we're just going to hit enter, nothing else on that line. And we're going to go back and grab the IPv6 address, paste it in, and we're going to go down here and just click on save. We should be good there. We're going to go back to our NS2 server, and now if we do a resync, click OK. Give it about 10 or 15 seconds. It shouldn't take too long. It just depends on kind of how you've got things set up and where things are at. You shouldn't have any firewalls running right now. Everything should be opened up. But now if we do a refresh, look at that. There's all of our other NS records already moved over from the first server. So now we're set up with NS2. We don't have to mess with NS2 anymore. NS1 is really where we'll make any additions, changes to our records, things like that, and NS2 will sync those up. Now there's a lot more that Technitium can do. I haven't gone through even a start of a little bit of it. So when you look at settings, there's a lot of settings under here, okay? We just did the first general tab. There is a ton of stuff here. You should go out and read and understand what these things do. You can set this up as a DHCP server as well, so you can also hand out addresses as DHCP. You can set it up as a DNS client as well. You can set up different apps for this thing. You can set up block lists, you can set up allowed lists, you can set up caching. There's a ton of stuff that you can do on the Technitium servers, but you need to go out and read about those things. It's out of the scope for this video, but I want you to get this part set up so you can start using this. And you'll really just log into NS1 to do your record adding, because once you've got things syncing, NS2 will just bring those over on its own over time. All right, so we've got NS1 and NS2 set up. We've got all of our records out of Hover, and we copied them over, so that's great. Now in Hover, we have to go in, and in this little overview area, and it'll be different for everything, but here where you see ns1.hover.com, we need to make this change so that it'll be ns1.theitpros.org and ns2.theitpros.org. But we can't just edit this and type in a name. It's not going to understand that, and it's going to say, hey, that doesn't look like a name server to me. I don't know what that name server is. What we have to do is we have to first create what they call glue records. Now in different systems and different registrars, they're going to have a different terminology for this, but you should be able to look up how to do it for your registrar. But in here, I'm going to go to advanced, and you see I've got these two sections for DNSSEC, and this one's a glue records. So I'm going to say add a glue record. I'm going to type in NS1. I'm going to go grab NS1's IPv4 addresses here. Let me make sure I'm getting the right one. So IPv4, I'm going to paste that in, and then I'm going to grab its IPv6. And I'm going to paste that in, and I'm going to hit add. Now this takes anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds to do this add, so don't be impatient. I'm just going to cut the video so you don't have to sit here waiting. All right, we've got our first one added. Now we're going to go and add our NS2. NS2, and we're going to go grab the IPv4 address, copy that address, paste it in, and then the IPv6 address as well, and we'll paste it in and we'll click add. And again, about 30 seconds. All right, we've got our NS1 and our NS2 addresses set up, which is awesome. Now we're going to go back to our overview pane. Now again, this may be all one step in your registrar. It just depends. But in my case, I'm going to go here to edit. I'm going to take out hover.com and I'm going to put the itpros.org and then ns2.itpros.org. I'm going to tab. Now if you get the little check mark in this case on hover, it means, hey, we see that as a server, you're great. Again, we're going to click on save. We're going to give it time to update those. And if you have more, you can see here there's an add, you can add more. So, all right, we've got our name servers updated. Now, it takes time for name server information to propagate through the internet, so be patient. This could take 10 minutes, this could take an hour, this could take a couple of days. It just depends on when you happen to push your changes, the things that you have to do. But if you've done everything the way I've shown you, and I'll tell you the most important bits that I've learned. The first time I created a zone, I just named it the IT Pros. I did not put .org. Everything else I did exactly the same as I've shown you, but that is what created my problems. It would not let things find where they needed to go. I then reread and realized, oh, this actually needs to be the domain name. So make sure when you put it here and when you put it on your other server, you put it in correctly as the domain name for the zone name. Then under the zone, you can put all of your records just like we have. The other part that I learned through just working through it is that, again, on this NS1 server under options, you got to go into those zone options, change that setting so that it says, hey, these specific IP addresses or servers can connect and sync with me. And then it'll let that sync happen. Once you've done that, everything should be syncing up. Now, we can test this in a couple of ways to see if things are working the way that we want. Is you can actually use a command called dig. So I'm going to exit out of that one just so we get the full screen here. And we're going to use dig. So we're going to say dig space plus TRACE, which is trace. And then we're going to put in the itpros.org. And what it's going to do is it's going to go out and it's going to say, hey, okay, I'm going to give you the trace of what's happening. So right here it says ns1.hover.com. So it hasn't made that change yet. So it's still looking to hover for this information and it's got it cached. We can give it a little bit of time and it should switch to be ns1.theitpros.org. So we'll give it a little bit of time and see if it'll switch here in a little bit. While we're waiting for my DNS cache to update, one of the things that Technitium offers is a little tool here that will let you check your DNS settings. So we're going to put in the domain. So this is the itpros.org. It's an A record. We're just going to leave that the same. And then we don't need to do anything here. I don't think. Everything else should be good. We're going to leave it as a query. And we're just going to do a lookup. So you see right now it says ns1.hover.com. So we've got to give it a little bit of time. It's just not updated yet. So this is another way you can do it. So we can use the dig command or we can use their site here. And I'll have a link to this in the show notes in the description as well. So you can get to it pretty easily. All right, I've given it about 20 minutes. Let's do our dig command again here. And there you go. So now we've got it. We've got the itpros.org set up as our NS1. We can also go to their site here and you see it was ns1.hover.com. Let's rerun it. And now we've got the itpros.org. So we are set. We've got everything working through there. And again, if we go check out our site with one of our new tabs here, the itpros.org. And again, congratulations page. Now I know you're thinking, oh, well, that's just going to hover still. But I went over to hover and I actually I deleted out the entries from hover, so it's not pulling anything from hover anymore. It's actually going to our itpros.org site. So in the proxy here, I'm going to click on add something new. And the nice thing about a proxy manager, it doesn't really care. As long as you have a record pointing to it that will help it see what you're asking for, you'll be set. So we'll set up one of those records here in just a second. So I'm going to say I want manage.theitpros.org. I'm going to hit tab so I get a little chip. And I want that to point to this server, which I've already got set up. So I'm going to go to here. And we've got the @ record for the IT Pros and it points to this. So I'm going to use that same address. I'm going to paste it in, and I want that to go to port 81 for the management port. And I'll click these boxes here. I'm just going to say save. Now, I'm not going to go to it yet. First, back here, I'm going to add a new record. And I want a catch-all record, which says, hey, no matter what I type for a subdomain, I want it to go to this IP address. So I'm going to give it that same IP address. I'm going to hit save. So now, when I get a request for anything, it doesn't matter. I could type in, sales.theitpros.org. It's going to say, hey, where should I go? And it's going to go, oh, I see this asterisk record for theitpros.org, and I see this IP address. So the asterisk means anything that's in front of theitpros.org, send it here. So it's going to say, okay, I see that. That's going to send it over here to the Nginx Proxy Manager. Nginx Proxy Manager is going to see that request and it's going to say sale. I don't have a sale, so it's just going to show us that generic congratulations page. But if we type in manage, it's going to go manage. Oh yeah, I see that one. Let me send you over to that one. So now if I go to manage, I should be able to get my SSL certificate as well because things are actually working the way we want. Click on request SSL. It's just a matter of being patient with DNS. It takes time for things to update, and I'm being impatient because one, I'm recording a video, but I also know that you guys can be impatient, so be patient, walk away, give it a few minutes, come back and try again. There we go, no error, that's great. We click on manage.iptpros.org and you see we get HTTPS and we get brought to our management page. So we've got everything functioning with Technitium and DNS. We've got everything ready. Now the other thing we could set up is instead of going to this IP address and this with it all being not encrypted, we can set this up to be a little bit better. So if we go here and we say, let's look at NS1, that's the one we want first. Let's just copy all of that. And let's put it into our management portal. So we're here somewhere. There we go. Let's do add. Let's do dns1.theitpros.org. So we're not trying to go to NS1 because that's the name server. Let's just paste all of that in. Let's get rid of that and we'll put it over here for 5380. And then of course we'll get rid of everything before that. Oh, let's do DNS1. I didn't hit tab. There we go. Now we've got the chip, block, WebSockets. Let's go do SSL request new certificate. We'll force it. Just like that. Now, what we're doing is just creating an entry where we can say, I want to connect to this thing with encryption so that people can't just sniff the traffic, see what I'm typing in for passwords, all those kind of things. It just makes it so much easier for us whenever we do this. There we go. So now we've got dns1.theitpros.org. We can click on that. And it's going to bring us over to log in just like we did before, and we'll be able to get into our system. And now it's all through HTTPS encryption with Let's Encrypt. Hope you enjoyed this. I hope you can put it to great use out there. Make sure that you're making your DNS secure and that you're helping your clients make theirs secure as well by using something that's self-hosted that you have a lot of control over. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along the open source journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.